Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade said he's going to call out Canelo, and he's been calling out Canelo and Golovkin for at least 10 fights. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, everybody that donated. Let's get it. Andrade, he just did a press conference. He's fighting at the Dunkin' Donuts Center hometown fight. And he's fighting against Matt Zaleski the same night as Jermall Charlo versus Brandon Adams. And this is what he said at the press conference. Quote, "I've been calling out Canelo and Triple G for 10 fights, and I just keep winning. At the end of this fight, I see myself with my hands raised and the belt around my waist yelling, 'Canelo!'" He talked about Zaleski. He says, "I don't really see anything special about him. If there were something special, he'd be undefeated and a world champion, and I'd be the challenger. Whatever Zaleski brings to the table, I'm going to be prepared for it." Right? So, we got some middleweight action, middleweight champion, WBO champion, fighting Demetrius Andrade, and then the now full champion, WBC champion, Jermall Charlo, fighting for his title against Brandon Adams. They, upgraded his interim or silver title or whatever it was and made Canelo the franchise champion so he could avoid having to be pressured to have Charlo as his mandatory. Now, I agree with Andrade. I think Andrade is a brilliant fighter, and he has been calling out. I've made several videos about it. He has called out Gennady. "And no guns have everybody. Tick, tick, tick." He's been calling out Golovkin, been calling out Canelo, and we're hearing Canelo may fight Sergey Kovalev and may fight Callin Smith. This really makes no sense. Those aren't bad fights. Those aren't horrible fights. Those are still, present danger to him. But Canelo, why would he, if you have action at 160 and you said you want to become undisputed, why are we talking about Canelo moving from 160 15 pounds up to 175 to fight Sergey Kovalev, who's supposed to be fighting Anthony Yard? It just makes no sense. Weight classes are being disrespected, and I still consider that, to me, cherry picking, because although there is danger anytime you move up in weight, stylistically, Canelo should fare better with more of a Eastern European style, in general, like a Callin Smith or a guy like Sergey Kovalev. Don't get it wrong, there is danger there, as I'm mentioning, but I think Canelo has more of a quote-unquote American style. He fights more like, quote-unquote African Americans, how you see African Americans. He has, just rhythm, defense, and just hand speed, combination punching, just stuff like that. So I think tougher fights for him would be Charlo and Demetrius Andrade, because every fighter has a style that plagues them more so than the next. Canelo, if you bring the fight straight to him, then and you're in his wheelhouse, that's where he does his best work. But if you use some lateral movement, you're like Mayweather, where you're just a complete fighter, those styles have given him more trouble. And Golovkin, he's a little bit different. Golovkin's the exception because he doesn't really have a defense, but he has a very good jab, so that's a fundamental. And he's big and he has heavy hands, so that style is giving him problem. But by and large, I think more of the American style will give Canelo issue, especially with stamina issues. He's fatigued in fights and whatnot. So, realistically, there should be no talk about Canelo moving out of 160 when the talent pool is what it is. There's still guys you have, like, people have Canelo rated number 1, fine. But there's still other champions and other guys that really Canelo could have fought at 154 that he never fought. Now they're in the same division, like Andrade is saying. He's been calling out these guys. He's been calling out Golovkin, but especially Canelo, because they were both previously at 154 together. And Canelo, he made up his weight class there at 155. So we'll see how Andrade looks versus Zaleski. Obviously, it's the first order of business, but You know, I'm anxious to see what happens at middleweight, because Jacob said he's moving up. He said he can't make the weight anymore, and that really leaves Andrade and Charlo to face Canelo and Golovkin. And a lot of them, minus Charlo, are already aligned with DAZN. So I feel like DAZN, is their responsibility to enforce these fights. They're putting up these crazy pots and purses and stuff. Instead of having Triple G fight Steve Rolls, why not Andrade? You know, instead of allowing Canelo to fight Fielding and, you know, work with another promoter like Top Rank to make a Kovalev fight, why not do an all in-house fight that's more meaningful, that's establishing Canelo, if he wins, as the undisputed, unless you don't like his chances. So to me, we're getting to see, it's like Fear Factor in boxing. We're getting to see what teams are fearful of what styles and stuff, because you never hear Floyd Mayweather Sr. or Roger Mayweather, and you pit anyone in the weight division against his son, you know, against his nephew, and you never hear Roger or Floyd sound worried for Floyd, you know, because they know what they have. They know how good Floyd is. You get what I'm saying? Versus Canelo, his team has openly said, we don't want to fight Willie Monroe. We don't like his style. You know, never rematch Lotta in a close fight. So when the team openly tells you they don't prefer a certain style, or hey, this guy's running, then that lets you know what problems they have with that style, because they're basically telling on themselves. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think teams should remain, you know, mum on that situation and not say anything, because it lets the whole world know the chinks in your armor. You don't prefer that style. That's why you're calling him a runner and this, that, and the third, you know. But Andrade has the ability to mix it up. Sometimes he's in the pocket and he's just banging, throwing combinations. Pause. So I want to see, you know, I can't wait till this weekend. A lot of middleweight fights, and I need to see what happens next. But I'm not really up for Canelo moving up without handling square business at 160. That seems to be the best and most logical thing to do. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comments section. If you're new, consider subscribing. We working.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.